Are you new to Wynncraft, looking for what class to pick on your first playthrough, or do you just want to learn more about the different classes on Wynncraft? Well, then this is the guide for you. Welcome to a guide to Wynncraft's classes. As of right now, there are 5 different classes on Wynncraft. Those classes are Archer, Assassin, Mage, Warrior, and Shaman. But if you have been in the class creation menu, you know there are secondary options for each class. These are reskinned classes. So basically there are copies of their base class, but their spells are visually different and they differ in their name. Their main feature is to give ranked players a more diverse selection. These classes are Hunter for the Archer class, Ninja for the Assassin class, Dark Wizard for Mage, Knight for Warrior, and lastly Skyseer for Shaman. Before we continue with information on each class, there's some overall information that is applicable to all classes. All classes have 4 spells, and each of those 4 spells have 3 versions, meaning they will upgrade twice throughout leveling your class. The second spell for all classes are movement spells, and they can actually be used to cancel fall damage. Just a little tip. Now let's move on to a more in-depth description of each class. In the bar and in the description you can find chapters and timestamps to each class and part, so let's get started. Archer is a ranged class, as you can tell by its name. Its weapon is the bow. Archers rely on being on distance, but they can go up close, as we'll see in the spell section. Archer's main strength is that the class has an extremely high damage output. It is the class with the highest base damage. But that comes with the cost of the Archer having very low defenses and being quite glassy. But it's nothing good armor can't mend. The Archer's main attack is done by right-clicking, which shoots an arrow. But unlike normal survival Minecraft, you don't actually have to charge up the bow, but the arrow will shoot as if it was a fully charged bow, so the reach is quite far. The Archer's first spell is called Arrow Storm. It's a spell that basically spams arrows. You unlock this spell at level 1. It fires 10 arrows, but they are pretty slow. At level 16, however, you unlock double the arrows and double the firing speed. Lastly, at level 36, there's a total of 60 arrows and they're shot in 3 rows. This is the upgrade where going closer to enemies will be rewarded with more damage, since more arrows will hit the target. The escape spell is unlocked at level 11. It shoots the Archer backwards to escape dangerous situations. At level 26, its upgrade gives you and players around you speed for 3 minutes. And at its last upgrade at level 46, it unlocks an attack where you can press shift to crash down onto enemies for additional damage. This next spell is unlocked at level 21, and it simply shoots an explosive arrow. At level 36, it upgrades to slow down enemies who are hit by the arrow. Lastly, at level 56, the arrow is upgraded to bounce up to 3 times more after the impact if it fails to hit a target. Lastly, there's the Arrow Shield spell, which you unlock at level 31. It creates a single charge shield of arrows around you that knock mobs back whilst inflicting damage. At level 46, the shield is given 3 charges until it disappears. This also increases the spell cost with 1 mana. Lastly, at level 66, it unleashes a rain of arrows once the 3rd and last charge has been triggered, which also increases the spell cost with 1 mana. Assassin is a close range class made to sneak up on enemies and deal out lethal attacks. Its weapon is the dagger. The main strength of this class is that an assassin can get up close and deal a large amount of damage. This class also has high base defense. But with stealth and close-up comes the weakness of range. Assassins have to be close to enemies so they suffer if they manage to get hit. The assassin's main attack is done by left clicking. It's a short range melee attack, so you have to be quite close to your enemy for them to actually be hit. At level 1 you unlock the spin attack, and it's an attack that runs in a circle around you, damaging the mobs that are close to you. At level 16, the upgrade allows the spell to freeze enemies for 1 second. Lastly, at level 36, it steals positive effect from enemies and clear your negative effects. At level 11, you unlock the Vanish spell, and it's the assassin's movement spell that launches the player a small distance forward and makes them invisible. It can be cancelled though with a melee attack or another spell. At level 26, attacking whilst invisible grants the assassin an 80% damage boost for deadly sneak attacks. And lastly, at level 46, you're granted speed 5 whilst invisible. At level 21, assassins unlock a spell that throws a flurry of attacks on their enemies. At level 36, additional damage and knockback is added to the spell. And then lastly, at level 56, you can direct where the enemy is thrown by looking in a specific direction. At level 31, the assassin unlocks a deployable bomb that creates a poisonous cloud. The first upgrade at level 46 adds slowness to enemies caught in the smoke. And then finally at level 66, you throw 3 separate bombs at the same time for a larger area of effect. Mage, as you can tell by its name, is a spell-focused class, its weapon being the wand. The mage deals strong spell attacks and supports its teammates. The main strength of a mage is its spells and its ability to heal itself and others. The mage does suffer on its base damage, which is quite weak to make up for the strong spell multiplier. The mage's main attack, like Assassin, is enabled by left clicking. Its melee attack does reach a bit further and can penetrate through walls and obstacles, being a magical mist emitted from the wand. At level 1, the heal spell heals 15% of the mage's max health. The heal also heals allies close by. At level 15, the heal is increased to 20% and removes all negative effects and the burning from lava or fire. Finally, at level 36, the heal also pulses twice after the first heal, healing additionally 5% per pulse. At level 11, the mage unlocks its movement spell, which teleports to the location where the mage is looking. At level 26, mobs standing in the way will be damaged when teleporting past them. Lastly, at level 46, the spell also blinds enemies hit by the teleport. Reaching level 21 unlocks a spell that summons a meteor that crashes down and explodes. At level 36, the meteor falls much faster. Lastly, at level 56, the ground burns around the crash site for a few seconds, damaging nearby mobs. At level 31, these spells allow mages to slow down enemies over long distances. At level 46, this spell also freezes enemies stuck for 1 second. And then lastly, at level 66, the snake's direction can be changed by moving your head. The warrior is a tanky class made to withstand a large amount of damage while still delivering deadly damage with its weapon, the spear. Warriors' main strengths are its crowd control spells and high base defense. Warriors do lack in the spell department though, having much higher spell costs. Like the previous two classes, the melee attack of a warrior is enabled by left clicking. Its main attack does not have a long reach though, so the warrior needs to get close to its enemies, similar to the assassin. At level 1, the warrior unlocks an explosive area of effect spell that hits and knocks enemies. At level 16, this spell has a second equally strong explosion. Lastly, at level 36, the second explosion is followed by an earthquake that slows down enemies for 4 seconds. And if you hit multiple enemies, the player is given a temporary 50% increase to all damage. At level 11, the warrior unlocks its movement spell that launches them forward. At level 26, hitting enemies whilst charging boosts the player defense with 50%. And then at level 46, the direction of the charge can be controlled by moving your head. At level 21, this spell throws enemies up in the air, dealing damage. Pressing shift allows the warrior to fly up as well. At level 36, this upgrade adds an explosion, damaging enemies mid-air, adding 50% damage. Finally, at level 56, the launched enemies will be crashed down onto the ground, adding an additional 50% damage. At level 31, warriors unlock a spell that buffs them and other players with 15% defense for 3 minutes. At level 46, the spell becomes a projectile that knocks back enemies, damaging them whilst being knocked, and penetrates walls. Lastly, at level 66, the defense boost is increased to 20% and it lasts for 4 minutes. An additional 10% strength buff is added for 4 minutes as well. The Shaman class is a crowd control class that relies heavily on good tactics. Its weapon is the relic. The Shaman's strength are its range, damage, and spells, with strong area of effect and crowd control spells with a high base damage. The Shaman does lack in defense, being the weakest class. It is very much a glass cannon and very weak if you're new to its playstyle. It can also suffer in boss fights that disable its crowd control abilities. The Shaman's main melee attack is a pulse emitted out of the relic weapon. Its range is somewhere between that of the archer and mage. What makes this attack unique is that it's split into 3, each beam doing a third of the total damage of the weapon. So you have to be close to hurt the most, but then you also risk being the most vulnerable. At level 1, the Shaman gets a spell that throws a totem onto the ground for 20 seconds. The totem damages mobs 20% of your total damage per second. It also gives the user within its range a 35% damage bonus and allies 15%. Reaching level 16 unlocks the healing upgrade, where the Shaman and allies are healed 4% of the user's max health every second. Finally, at level 36, the totem creates a damaging crash upon landing on the ground. At level 11, the Hall spell allows the Shaman to be thrown towards the totem. This spell requires that the Shaman has already deployed a totem. At level 26, hauling into mobs damages them and launches them upwards out of the Shaman's way. Lastly, at level 46, hit mobs are slowed down by 60% for 3 seconds. At level 21, you unlock the Aura spell. Like the Hall spell, this too requires a totem to be placed down. It casts an aura emitting out of the totem, damaging enemies and pushing them towards the totem. At level 36, the aura bounces back, introducing a second wave of damage. The final upgrade at level 56 creates a circle around the totem that temporarily locks enemies to the totem. At level 31, the Shaman unlocks its final spell. This spell throws a projectile that pulls mobs towards the Shaman. It does not require the totem to be placed. At level 46, the uproot's direction can be controlled by moving your head. And then finally, at level 66, the pull can be switched to a push by pressing shift. Uproot also resets the totem timer, so you don't have to place down a new totem after 20 seconds. And that was the guide to the 5 different classes, but do keep in mind that their strengths and weaknesses are their base stats. For example, the archer has a low base defense, but that does not necessarily mean that archers are always classy. All of this information is just the base stats, which can be changed based on the armor and weapons you use and the skill points you have picked. So very much it relies on playstyle, and there are a bunch of different kinds of playstyles that you can choose from. And that's it for my guide to the classes on Wynncraft. Hopefully it has been helpful and useful. I want to say special thanks to SayaDuck for helping with this video. You can find his channel linked down below. And yeah, that's it. Thank you guys for watching. Leave a like and a comment on the video if you want to. You can also subscribe if you want to. It's not mandatory. And yeah, I'll see you guys in the next one. Goodbye.